In this lesson, we will be covering how to create an auxiliary view, section views, and detail views. The file that I have open is called views.idw, and it is located in the Chapter 5 exercise folder. So I'm going to zoom back up on the front view here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an auxiliary view just by clicking auxiliary view from the drawing views panel. And all I'm going to do is pick inside the view that I want. And as you can see, I'm just going to move my cursor over the edges. In this case, I want to come back off the top angled edge. And you can see in the dialog box, I can change the label. If I want to have it displayed with the label and the scale, I'll turn that on. And then I will just position where I want that auxiliary view to go. And as soon as I pick that point, that view is created. Now as I would move the base view, the auxiliary view will stay in line with it as well. I'm going to delete the auxiliary view, and let's go back here. And now what I want to do is take a look at creating a section view. Again, I'm going to, from the Drawing Views panel, click on Section View, move my cursor into the view. And all of these tools can also be started by right-clicking while the cursor is inside the view under Create View. So I'm just going to pick inside that view. And again, I'm going to zoom up a little bit tighter. So you'll notice as I move the cursor, when you get the green circle to appear, that's going to apply a coincident constraint. So in this case, that's not what I want. So I'm just going to make sure I don't get that. Otherwise, you can also hold down the Control key, and that will prevent that coincident constraint or perpendicular parallel constraint from happening. So in this case, I'm just going to draw on 3 lines. It could have just been a straight line, could have been an angle line. And now to complete the section view, what I'm going to do is right-click, Continue. Now this is where we're going to tell Inventor, do I want to place the view to the right or to the left? And notice when I do that, the arrows are changing. So in this case, I'm going to place it on the left side. And before I do that, let's bring the dialog box over here. And this is where as well you can change the label and the scale. And for the section depth, I'm going to do a full section depth. Under distance, then I could go back and say, well, I only want to have it sectioned a certain distance, but in this case, let's do full. Just going to pick on a point. So from this section view, I'm going to project off an isometric view. A little bit easier to see, and just go ahead and create that. I'm going to edit the section view, because right now there's no hatch appearing in there. As you can see, there is no hatch. I'm going to click under the Display Option tab and check hatching. So now if I zoom in tight, I can see the hatch is now appearing inside the isometric view as well. So with my cross-section lines, I can go back and I can change the orientation of these lines. So if I want to see a little bit different, as you can see, that's a pretty dramatic change just by switching those 2 lines around. But now what I want to do is I probably want to position these lines a specific distance maybe from this edge. And you can accomplish that by moving your cursor over the section line, right-click, and then I'm going to click on Edit. And once I do that, you'll see the Drawing Sketch panel appear. I'm going to scroll on down. I'm looking for the General Dimension tool, but you could also go back and show your constraints, so you can maybe delete some that were applied. You could apply your constraints, but in this case, I'm just going to do a General Dimension. And let's place that down 5 millimeters. And from this left edge, let's place that in 10 millimeters. And when I'm done, I'm going to click the Return tool. So now you'll notice if I try to drag the section lines, I'm not able to do so because it's locked down. So next, let's take a look at editing the hatch pattern itself. So right now, it looks like it's an ANSI 31. If I want to change that, I'm going to just move my cursor over that cross section. Let's get a little bit tighter. You saw that I wasn't quite close enough when I right clicked. I'm going to edit the pattern, and the edit hatch dialog box appears. And if I want, I can simply select the specific ANSI standard that I want. But you'll notice by material is not available. So inside of the part file, let me open that file up real quick. The materials has already been set by right-click, iProperties. Under the Physical tab, you'll notice that it's already set to steel. So let's close that file. And what I want to do is I want to have a relationship to that material. And I'm going to do that by going under the Format pull-down, click Style and Standard Editor. Now from the Drawing Standard, click on Material Hatch Pattern. And right now it's empty, so I could go back and I could manually type in the material if I wanted to. Or in this case, I'm just going to populate it from the style. And styles will be covered in a later lesson. So now all I simply have to do is scroll on down, find steel, ANSI 31. Click on that. Let's change it to ANSI 34. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Done. So now if I edit the existing hatch pattern, the by material is in place, and you'll see that it grayed out the pattern now, and I can still override the angle if I wanted to. So that makes it really handy to go back and apply everything from your styles to your standards. Now the last view that I want to talk about is going to be creating a detail view. From the Draw and Views panel, click under the Detail view, and I'm going to select a point that I want to start off with. And you'll notice in the dialog box I can again place in a label, the scale. I have two different operations for a fence. I can either do the circular or rectangular. So for this example, let's start off by doing circular. And I'm going to do one with jagged edges. So let's go ahead and do that. Just going to pick a point, pick a second point to define the size of the circle or the detail, and pick another point for it to get located. With these details, I can go back and I can resize them. I can move them just by simply clicking on the grip points on that detail view itself. Let's create another detail view. So let's go back, we'll click a point in the view. In this case, we'll do circle, but I'm going to change it to smooth. And now with smooth, we have two different options that we can do. So display full detail boundary or not. So let's create one that is not. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to define it by picking some points here. And let's put it right up here. So you can see with that detail view, pretty generic, there's no circle around it. Let's go back and create one more. So again, we'll do smooth. In this case, we will display the boundary, and I will display a connection line. So I'm just going to pan this up. And then let's pull that down. And you'll see in this case what it did with the boundary is it placed the circle around it with the connecting box. And let's create one last detail view. And maybe in this case, let's create one off the isometric view. And I'm going to do a rectangle with the jagged edges. And of course, just like we were able with the circle, let's go back and I can change its location and its size as needed.